Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Purple Breakdown. I am your host, Alex, and I'm so excited to be back here on another episode with you. It is Thursday. We're one day away from Friday. The weekend's almost here. I hope you're enjoying it. The weather's warming back up. It's a crisp 70 degrees here, and I'm loving it. I'm going to go outside after recording this episode and getting it out. But I hope you're all having a great weekend. But we're here to talk about the Ravens. So we're going to dive into that in a second. But first, if you like the content that you are hearing, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. We always do the comments at the start of each session now. So if you want your comment featured and the shout out, please comment. It makes my day and it helps me smile in the mornings because I read everything that you guys post and I want to talk Ravens and you guys talk Ravens. So let's jump in right off the bat. And NTE, I want to address this one first. He said, I'll be watching the game tonight, support your team. I really hope they win. Also, I just realized EDC meant Eric DaCosta. Yeah, I know I use that slang a little bit, but yeah, that is what it means. Thank you for the support. Miami won. What a game. What a game. They won by 10 points. I was watching that game. My heart was pumping, but oh boy, Miami threw down the gauntlet and just said to everyone that says we don't belong in March Madness, we belong here. Now they play Tennessee tomorrow at 4:25, so I'll be watching that game at that time, and I'm really hoping that Miami can pull out a win, but we'll see as to whether or not they do. Tennessee's a hard team, but I'm just happy that Miami made it in, and if they do upset them and move on, I'll be even more happy. We'll see how they do. All right. David, you go. Where do you think the Ravens will go with their number one pick in the draft? Would it be a waste or a wise decision to go O-line, center, guard, or tackle? If the O-line pick was used as a backup for 2026, would Ravens start a rookie offensive lineman at center as a starter? I don't really have knowledge about how important the draft is to different positions on the team. Thank you for the insights and good luck to your Redhawks. Thank you for the support with the Redhawks too as well, David. They won. Yay. Um, Honestly, how important is the O-line to the Ravens this year? It's so important. It is one of the most important positions for the team this year going forward, especially between center and guard. They've addressed half the guard issue by picking up John Simpson. He will be a starting guard. They have to figure out who the other starting guard is, and I think there's a lot of people that are thinking it's going to be Emory Jones Jr. going forward this next year. I wouldn't be surprised if they still draft another guard. I could very well see them going Vega Iona in the first round, just put somebody else and have Emory Jones Jr. just be sort of the backup on the other side. Center, I don't know if there's any rookies I would trust to step in immediately at center and go straight off the bat. That is such a tough, tall order to do, to come in and immediately be assigned one of the most important positions on the team. There is the center out of Iowa that the Ravens could do, just like with what they did with Linderbaum, and that worked out so well for the Ravens. So they could do that and go that way again, but that would be a later round pick. Right now, the biggest one that I could see is if Fano is still there, Spencer Fano is still there in the first round when the Ravens pick at pick 14, they may look his way because he is also projected that he could be moved into the interior of the line. He plays tackle right now, but he could be moved into guard or center possibly, especially with how wide his wingspan is. So we can see. I don't know if they would straight out start. If they pick up Vega Iona, it's with the expectation that he would be starting at guard. I think without a doubt. The expectation for center, I think, is a little different, and I think that's why they'll probably focus on center and free agency and trying to. I think that they're going to keep waiting for center because what they done right now is brought in Javon Gwynn and Danny off the Colts. And so those two pickups aren't so much addressing the center as much as it's just backup depth pieces. And so you still need somebody starting there at center. And I wonder if they're almost looking towards Ethan Pokic off the Browns and wondering if they can pick him up after the June 1st deadline, that they're going to draft somebody and then pick him up and have them be the starter for a year or two, have him be the starter for a year or two before seeing their luck if in a draft if they can't bring in somebody bigger. But that's the way I think they're going to go so far with the offensive line. I think without a doubt, it is one of the most important positions right now. It's just the question of, do they go Vega? I think it's easier to get a starting guard this year than it is to get a starting center, especially with how hard it is as a rookie to step into a center role. So let's move next. Sorry if I butcher this, but Guillermo, you posted and you said, "Hey, I wouldn't mind running it back with Clowney again." And this is with off the video I posted yesterday off of that they could possibly go on after another edge rusher in free agency. They're definitely going to be drafting one. I think that's without a doubt, especially with how deep this edge draft class is. You just can't go without picking up another. But I wouldn't mind seeing it run back with Jadeveon Clowney at all. He performed well enough on the Cowboys this past year. I know he's 33 right now, but he performs well enough and he keeps performing, and you're not asking him to be the number one edge rusher on the team. You have Trey Hendrickson on the other side. He'd be a good pickup to just sort of run with and keep in the flow. And I think that would be an amazing pickup to go with. And then NTE, you had one more. You said it's great to see a veteran like David Njoku possibly getting a fresh start after showing so much resilience through injuries in Cleveland. His spirit and physical talent make him a perfect fit for the Ravens' tough winning culture. If we do get him, what do you think will be his biggest upgrade for the offense? When looking at this, his biggest upgrade, it's the pass game. 100% the pass game. The Ravens, they need it, and they need extra help, and so you'd be bringing him in to try and increase how the Ravens can stretch the field vertically. That's what they need out of a tight end right now is a receiving tight end that can stretch it, and somebody else that's not just solely looking at Mark Andrews. And Njoku used to be good at this. He used to be really good. Now, over the past 2 years, his yards have gone down. That is without a doubt. He's dealt with injuries, and as a result, they've had him running less deep routes, and as well as targeting him less. Now, this is also going into the quarterback room and what the quarterbacks have done, but this past year didn't help at all either when Fanning Jr. came in. And with Fanning Jr. coming in, I mean, he has just taken the scene there at the Browns. Now, I don't think this is a horrible pickup at all. I think this would be a great pickup for the Ravens and would secure the tight end room. And immediately, the Ravens wouldn't be drafting a tight end in the draft anymore. I just don't see them, because if you're picking up Njoku, you're picking him up to probably a contract a little more similar to Andrews. You're not paying him the $14 million, but you may be paying him $9 million, somewhere in there, and doing it over a 3-year period. And so you wouldn't have to look that way immediately, but you would have to be looking at tight ends here not too long, because you would then have Mark Andrews and Njoku both being well into their 30s at that point and both slowing down probably a lot. And you got to wonder injuries there. But I think he'd be an amazing player and would benefit so much from playing with Lamar and the type of offense that the Ravens can and will run. I mean, they love operating out of the tight end formations, and he'll have a consistent quarterback who is a reliable quarterback at the helm, instead of, going through every single between Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and everyone else that he's gone through. I mean, he has not had a stable quarterback situation in a while. So it would help him a lot, and I think he'd be a great boon to the team. So those are our comments. Thank you all so much to all of you who did comment. Shout out to all of you. If you'd like your comment featured on the next episode of the podcast, please comment. Makes my day, makes me smile, and I love talking Ravens, and it gets us into these great conversations. All right, let's jump into it for the day. So we got some free agency news. Tylan Wallace is no longer a Raven free agent. He is now going to the Browns. The Browns have picked him up, and he is following Todd Monken. Sad to see Wallace go. Wallace has had a lot of big-time moments on the Ravens. I mean, looking back to the win against the Rams a few years back, where he returned that punt all the way for the touchdown. And so he was the Ravens punt returner, and he did get a few reps here and there in as a wide receiver as well. And he is now going on. It's not so much a big loss for the Ravens as much as it's sort of like he had big moments and was well respected within the Ravens community because of those large moments. The Ravens gave him a lot of love because of that, especially the fans. But he is going on now, and this is a full signal that Devontae Walker will be expected to take on a larger role this past year. And I think they're looking at this and saying they're comfortable with moving on from Wallace, because he's not taking on so much a punt role, because LeJohntay Wester that they picked up last year in the draft, he took over punt returns this year, and then Devontae Walker had some flashes this year as well. And so they're looking at they're expecting Devontae Walker to take the next step forward, compete for the wide receiver 3 spot. LeJohntay Wester will take up that punt return role fully, and that will be the receiver room going forward. Now, I still don't think this settles the receiver room at all. I still think they need to bring in somebody to compete with Devontae Walker there and Rashad Bateman, and at least, if not compete with Rashad Bateman, take attention away from Rashad Bateman to allow him to get further yards down the field and be utilized the way he's supposed to be utilized. Devontae Walker needs to be given that opportunity to fight for the wide receiver 3 spot, but they still need to bring in somebody else, be it through the draft or through free agency, and they may do both. But we'll see which way they go with that. When looking at that, there's still some wide receiver and free agents that the Ravens are getting connected to. News is coming back up about Stefon Diggs again right now, and that he could possibly be a target for the Ravens. Now, when looking at what his expected salary is to be, Stefon Diggs is expected about $13.8 million. And he is 32 years old. My only problem with him is honestly his personality at this point. I mean, he can show to be a great receiver, and it shows in this past year where he had 100 targets for 85 receptions, over 1,000 receiving yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. So he gets the yards, and I mean, his overall grade is an 87.5, which is great. But his personality and what he could be bringing to the team may be something that the Ravens are not as interested in, and possibly that money value that they're looking at. And I feel like if I'm looking for a receiver at that point, I'd rather be looking towards the draft. I know the Ravens have also been connected into Tyreek Hill. And I really don't think the Ravens, as much as like I dislike Stefon Diggs, I would not be upset seeing him come to the Ravens. I'd be like, I think the money could be spent better elsewhere, but I wouldn't be upset. I would be angry if the Ravens picked up Tyreek Hill. And I know everyone says, well, he could do so well on the Ravens and what his talent is. What he was so great at was that he was such an amazing speed demon, and he could create so much separation between him and the defenders by just being faster than everyone else out there and having solid route running as well. He's getting older. He's coming off a horrendous injury from this past year. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, you're 32 years old. You're coming off a horrendous injury. You're slowing down. I don't think there's any argument that he's not slowing down. And his expected contract value is $15 million. I'm looking at that and I'm like, I wouldn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I don't want to keep that far away from the team. And what sometimes he does with, and if you want to talk about a diva that has personality issues as well, he's another one to talk about right there that has personality issues. So I would not be happy seeing Tyreek Hill come. I think that would be a poor decision on the part of the Ravens to bring him in. Jauan Jennings is also still on there, and we've talked about at length now Jauan Jennings and what he could do for the Ravens, and him getting brought in. Still his expected value is 22 million, but I think that has dropped significantly as time is continuing to move forward. And maybe he's just waiting for the right deal, but I think that's going to just continue to drop. And it may be a steal that the Ravens could get, especially with the size and I mean his ability to block as well as receive and show up in key situational plays. The final receiver that I've heard a little rumors around for the Ravens, and possibly also, honestly, I actually like and wouldn't mind seeing the Ravens pick up, is Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen off the Chargers this past year, so he'd be going from Harbaugh to the Ravens, and no guarantee that they do pick him up, but I wouldn't mind seeing him. His expected market value is $6.8 million. Yes, he is older at 33, and I believe he'll be 34 by the time the season starts, but his overall grade this past year was a 77.6. He is 6'2", 211 pounds, so he's a bigger guy. He had 118 targets this past year for 81 receptions, 777 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. If you're looking for somebody that you could just pay cheaper money and just sort of take attention away from Rashad Bateman, Keenan Allen may be the one to do that at this point. I think if they're going to be looking for a younger wide receiver that could be around for 4 years, 4 years, look at Jauan Jennings. But Keenan Allen could definitely be one you bring in on a 1 or 2 year contract for cheaper money relatively, and just sort of try and have it be a distraction for Rashad Bateman. He's knowing his role coming in. He's not going to receive a massive load share. He's not going to be receiving a massive target share, but he's coming in with the expectation that when key moments arise, that he can rise to them. And that would be the expectation there. And I honestly really like that one. And so those are the wide receivers that the Ravens could target in free agency to help replace a DeAndre Hopkins that will be leaving and a Tylan Wallace that has left now. Because Wallace could have been a guy that, if stuck around, possibly competing with Devontae Walker for that third spot, and this would be another person coming in. But we'll see which way they go. I still leaning towards the draft right now. Let's keep going forward, and we'll keep going with free agency as well, and that is interior defensive line. They still really need to help add depth there, and if the Ravens are looking towards there, and we went into the edge yesterday, so I'm just going to go into interior defensive line today since we went into edge yesterday and what they could still be looking at. Calais Campbell and David Onyemata are still both on the board. Calais Campbell had a good year this past year. His PFF grade is still high, and I mean, his impact, even at the age he's at, is still there, and I love it. He would have an expected market value of right around 11 million right now. Maybe the Ravens could get that for a little bit of discount, but there's no guarantee he comes back and plays another year. He's 39 right now. He's closing in, getting closer to 40, and so he has lots of experience as a player and could have an impact. And the role again would be coming in expecting Madubuike to come back, possibly drafting another guy there that they would be a depth piece that could just sort of serve as assurance on the team. And Calais Campbell would not be bad for that. He'd be returning to his team. The other one, David Onyemata, that I like him as well. His PFF grade this past year was pretty good. He had 42 solo tackles, one sack, 17 assists. He had a 67.1 pass rush grade, but a 74.2 defense grade. I like this a lot. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. He's 33 years old, and he costs a little less than what Calais Campbell may cost. His expected value right now is 8.5 million. And I like him because, again, you're not asking them to come in and step up and be this next level player that is expected to be amazing. You're expecting him to come in and be a depth piece that can be there and help keep players healthy and take a little bit of the stress off them. And if somebody does get injured, step up into that role and just help solidify the line as a whole and help the Ravens come in constant waves of pressure and so much. So I think either of them would be a good pickup. I may lean more a little towards David Onyemata, not so much because he's cheaper, but because he's younger, and there's no guarantee with Campbell how long he lasts or if he comes back this next year. But we'll see which way they go with that. They may not even be looking at interior defensive line during free agency. They may just be looking towards that in the draft. But we will see. So that is news I have for free agency. I want to jump in real quick and keep going with some other news that is coming out. Yesterday, we got a little more clarification for the PFF grade that came out, why the Ravens got a B+ when it came to the start of free agency for the Ravens. It's all with the signing of Hendrickson, Hawkins, Simpson, and Awuzie. Those four players really raised the grade there and why people are talking so much. And I mean, everyone is now loving the pickups of Hawkins and what he could do for the Ravens. And the more I read into it, the more I also love it, and just how he is as a situational player and knowing that he can just sit there and lets the plays come to him. I mean, that is the best you can ask for a player, that he is pursuing, trying to find them, but he's not actively being like reckless in pursuing them. He understands that he has to wait for the opportunity to present itself to him. And I can't wait to see how he operates on this team, even though he's going to be third in the lineup behind Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton. He'll still be a great player. Simpson it was so needed, and Awuzie just keeps the depth chart and cornerback there looking solid. I mean, it will be Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa, and Chidobe Awuzie now going forward, and that cornerback lineup. Hendrickson, again, great signing, great pickup, will help solve the pass rush issue. There have been some worries, though, that I've heard coming out about him, a possibility over worries of health. Now, it's nothing like Max Crosby's worry on health there, and what the Ravens are claiming that their worry with Max Crosby's health was, and whether people believe that or not, I'm not going to dive into that any more than what I have. I've already talked on it. But from the Ravens' perspective, looking at they expected health out of him, I think it's a better situation. I understand he's 31 years old. He's on the other side of 30 now. Hendrickson is, but they can deal with that. And if they get 2 solid years out of him and then 1 year that slowed down, I think to the Ravens that is worth it right now, and we'll see how long he lasts. But I'm not as much worried about this. Sports Illustrated was the one who came out and said this in an article about the top 5 bust candidates for next year possibility, and Hendrickson came in on 4 there, and I don't believe he's as much as a bust candidate there. I think he's coming into a good team with a lot of pieces around him, and if the Ravens can add more at edge and just bring a little more depth there, and I'm not saying you got to bring in 3, 4 other guys. I mean, bring in 2 guys, one more in free agency, one more in the draft, and now you have a lineup of Hendrickson, Mike Green, whoever else they would bring in free agency, whoever they would draft, Adesic Isaac and Tavius Robinson. And so you have 6 guys there, and you can make so many rotations out of that. That would allow Hendrickson, if he's not feeling 100%, to get a little rest and stay healthier that way. So that is the way I'm looking at it, and the news around that. The final bit of news I'd like to jump into and talk about is possibility that the Ravens could still trade for an edge defender as well, and Thibodeaux is still getting linked. Kayvon Thibodeaux is still getting linked to the Ravens as a possible trade candidate. It could take a 3rd or 4th round pick to bring Thibodeaux over, and if they do, I mean, that is your edge room right there. Now, will the Ravens do that with draft capital? I don't think so. I don't think the Ravens are ready right now to give up a 3rd round pick or anything like that. I think they are still seeing draft picks like gold, and that they're sort of looking at it and saying they don't want to give up draft picks right now. I know Brian Thomas Jr. for wide receivers also been linked as a draft target that the Ravens could go, and it could take a 2nd or more, a 2nd round pick, and maybe like a 7th or somewhere around there, or 6th. I think that's overpaying a little, but I don't think the Ravens do that either. I think they see the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. If they're going to be trading anything, it's going to be like starting in the 4th round, that they are willing to trade with 4th round picks. I don't see them trading the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round picks for anything. I see them holding on to those and retaining them like nobody's business. But we'll see which way they go. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today. That is all I have for the podcast today. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining in and listening to the podcast. If you like what you have heard and are hearing, please subscribe, like the video, and comment. Makes my day. I want to talk Ravens. When you guys comment, I get to talk more Ravens, and I always respond to comments. They make me very happy to see you guys talking and the engagement that comes through it. And you also get the chance to get the shout out on the Main Form podcast. So please do that. If you're on Spotify, do the same thing. Follow, leave a review, and leave a comment. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining in and listening, and let's see how the Red Hawks perform tomorrow. I'm hoping they beat Tennessee. We will see. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining in, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.